Welcome to Duality Check, the podcast where two brothers embark on a journey through the realms of scientific inquiry, the mysteries of the past, and the uncharted frontiers of spirituality. Join us as we explore the wonders of our world and beyond, all while embracing the roles of curious bystanders rather than experts. Together we'll unravel the tapestry of existence, blending the dichotomies of knowledge and wonder. Get ready to question, ponder, and delve into the dualities that shape our understanding of reality on Duality Check. I'm Drew.
And I'm Dean, and welcome to episode number 74. I had a heck of a week. How was your week?
Pretty hectic.
Yeah?
Just heat wave and
kids. I got to miss all the heat wave.
Did you?
I was in San Francisco.
Oh, you were doing that this whole week, huh?
Yeah.
For the last couple of days, at least.
Yeah. Kiddos good.
They are good. Just busy.
Yeah. So
swim practice and school and yeah.
I worked a ton this week, which means when I'm on an install like that, I get a chance to listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of audiobooks.
And what'd you get into this time?
Let's see. I watched some Danny Jones stuff with this lady, Caroline. What's her name? Catherine Fitz. And then Joe Rogan had a pretty good week. He had AJ from Y-Files on.
Yeah. And he had Luke Caverns on again.
Luke was a good one.
Yeah, that was a really good one.
And then I think after I listened to all those, I switched to listening to John Mack's Abduction book. I'm not even sure how far into it I am, but I think I've got through, he's got like a couple
of chapters at least.
Intro chapters, and then I think I'm about 4 of his case files in.
Okay.
I'm not sure how
like
many there are total. Maybe? Yeah, each chapter is a case file.
Okay.
And he'll go over the person's case and introduce them and their circumstances, and then he'll spend time talking about like their actual sessions where he'll do like regression with them.
Oh, wow.
And then he does a sort of analysis at the end.
He talks about what they're saying and doing through their regression, or just from his point of view?
They're not always like a transcript, but more of like he's communicating the content of the regressions to kind of give you the feel
from his point of view, kind
of. Well, yeah. I mean, he's got meticulous records as a psychiatrist, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm sure he has it all recorded. But yeah, he doesn't present it as just a straight transcript. He presents it like he presents the most important bits to him in the study of the abduction phenomena.
Okay.
Rather than trying to give you like every minute detail of that person's, regression
story
sessions.
And what they were like.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool.
So, yeah, he's got some interesting themes, and he's essentially talking about a lot of the commonalities he sees between the abduction experiencers. Super interesting.
Okay.
And yeah, so I brought I brought one snip from one of the interviews that I found pretty fascinating. I thought we could read a few pages of that and then discuss it.
I listened to Jesse Michaels' interview with the Skywatcher group. I finished that.
Yeah.
And then I watched Area 52, the first 3 episodes, the first 3 parts of the alien interview.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Dude.
Just the content of the, like he's just sitting there and reading it. And obviously he's got a good style of video and stuff, but like the content of the pages is really good.
Yeah.
That he's reading. this transcript.
I actually bought the book. It came in this week.
Perfect. Yeah, we should make that maybe next episode or maybe episode or two down the road.
Yeah, once we have a chance to read through some of it, or maybe we just read it together.
Or we just read it together. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about the copyright on that, but
yeah, I don't know either.
we can find out.
Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily want to recreate his video, but I definitely want to discuss the details of
at least some of the stuff.
Have a pretty in-depth discussion.
So I actually I didn't give it to you yet. Maybe on one of our breaks, I'll give it to you. But a little section of it, just that I like the timestamp for a little section of it that I wanted to play.
Okay.
But yeah, I haven't gotten in depth on the whole thing, so I want to finish the parts and then read it myself.
Yeah.
We could just read it ourselves and then kind of come together and talk about it.
Sure.
If we wanted to.
I'd be down. Yeah, so also I wanted to tell you this. On my drive home today from San Francisco, I'm getting back into Sacramento, and you know, like when you're kind of like driving past the airport, you know, like you kind of have a feel for like where the airport is. No, coming back on like 80 back into the city.
Oh yeah, okay.
And so the airport's off there to your left.
Yeah.
And you'll see some like planes come and go, right? Like landing and taking off. And it's a pretty common sight. And then somewhere off, like in front of you in that part of the drive is the old Air Force Base, and you'll sometimes see planes coming up and down from there.
Yeah.
So I was about at that section where McClellan's in front of me and the airport's to the left of me, and I'm on the freeway and I look up and I see a plane in the sky is what I register it as. It looks a little weird. It looks oversized for like the distance and the height of what I'm judging. And it's also like tilted. Like it's in a hard bank.
Like it seemed small, but it was so far away that it made it seem big or something?
Well, it seemed far away, but the amount of my view it took up was bigger than it should have been for how far away it, because you know you can kind of gauge like distance through like the haze through the atmosphere, right? Like things get more gray as they get more distant.
So it felt far because of that kind of feeling of it being in a distance, but the fact that it took up so much of your vision made it seem like it was like either way more massive than you think, or it's right in front of you.
Yeah, it's weird.
But because there's nothing else to block it besides that haze.
So like the mismatch of like size and distance felt weird to me, and then the fact that it looked like it was like engaged in like a hard left turn, like a bank. Like I was behind it and it was banking hard to the left. It was kind of what it looked like. You've kind of a fuselage with the wings from either side, but tilted.
Okay.
And then, you know, I'm driving, so I look away to pay attention to the road, and I look back up, and granted, there's like this part of the freeway is a little bit of a turn, so I look back up in the sky and I can't see it, and so I start scanning the sky and I can't see it, and then like as I'm continuing to finish my drive, I keep scanning the entire section of the sky, and I can't see it like at all.
Nowhere.
Anywhere, and it just threw me off because of how sizable it had been in the sky.
Right. So you would think you'd be able to like spot it really quickly.
Yeah, well, and I was interested to look back at it.
But if the distance with it being actually really far, then it would be easily obstructed by close things.
Yeah, but there was nothing in the sky. There was no clouds in the sky. There wasn't anything in the sky. There was no other airplanes I could see in any direction.
That's so weird.
And I just couldn't find this thing again. And it was high enough up that like it's not like it went down below the horizon or
that
anything.
Quickly. Yeah.
And if it did that quickly, that would have been pretty unexplained. But the fact that I couldn't find it again, like in the entire like quadrant of the sky that I originally saw it in. Super weird. Like maybe this is like, because I wanted to look back at it to
Did you
gather
check
more
your clock
information
right
because
after?
it kind of threw me off with like the size and the bank and the confusion of the distance that I couldn't make out.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like naturally looking back at to gather more information, right?
Yeah.
But
course.
like in that maybe 5-second window where I like looked back down to the road and like because of that gentle turn that I was going into, I look back up and there's just nothing.
Yeah, that's weird. Huh.
So I don't know what that was.
Anomalous.
It was weird. Maybe I was seeing something. So I started like looking at the windshield. I'm like, was it one of these splotches on my work van?
Oh, yeah. And
Wasn't-
you couldn't find anything?
I couldn't find anything that I like could explain what I had even seen, which made me question like, was it even there? And I was like, no, it was definitely there.
That is weird.
I thought it was weird.
UFOs
So-
and SAC.
I don't know, but
UAP, unidentified, anomalous phenomenon.
the weirdest part is that it looked clearly like a plane at first.
Yeah, but the size and the distance you're saying was what threw you off.
Yeah.
And then the fact you couldn't find it again.
So yeah, I saw
Was it
a
crashed?
top secret government plane that put on the cloaking mode as I looked away,
Yeah.
or something. I
Something.
don't know.
I mean, it was something. Sounds like.
That was weird. Anyway, yeah, let's. What have you brought today?
I brought a handful of clips here. I was going ham on the clips this week.
Ham on the clips. Let's check.
So yeah, supposedly Steven Spielberg is coming out with a UFO movie or something.
I know, like, yeah, I heard
And he was
something
doing an
about it.
interview, and this is the clip that I pulled or that I saw online that I wanted to play for you.
So this is on X. This is by Dr. Dan at ANX Whisperer. He says Spielberg showed E.T. at the White House. I guess it's just called No, it was like the old school E.T.
The movie, yeah.
Yeah. And Reagan, stood up and said, "Some here know everything on that screen is true." According to Reddit user Alpha012, Spielberg believes at a minimum government is hiding UAP info. All right, let's check out this clip.
Is insatiably curious about UFOs or UAPs.
Yes.
That there's something going on that we're really not being made that's not being disclosed to us.
Well, senators who have been briefed on this, and I don't mean just these latest balloon-ish incidents, senators who have been briefed on this have said there are things the American people deserve to know, and the quote I love is, and they're ready to learn. And that says to me that there's something sort of paradigm shattering about this news that we're not being told.
You know, the most optimistic thing I feel about these things that we're seeing in the skies, or the Army and Navy and Air Force are recording on their gun cameras, is that what if they're not from an advanced civilization 300 million light years from here, but what if it's us 500,000 years into the future that is coming back to document the second half of the 20th century and into the first 20th century because they're anthropologists and they know something that we don't quite know yet that has occurred, and they're trying to track the last 100 years of our
Existence. Interesting. Huh. What's that guy's name? Michael...
Stephen Colbert.
No. The time traveling Michael something Masters? Is it Michael Masters? It sounds right and wrong at the same time.
I mean, I've heard that name before, but
Yeah. The guy who's he's an anthropologist, but he's also a UFO experiencer, and he's got the time traveling from the future theory.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
I think it's Michael Masters.
You might be right there. I think it's entirely possible.
Nope, that is not who I'm thinking of.
That's not the guy. It's something Masters? There he is.
Yeah,
Dr.
it's Michael Masters.
Biological anthropologist.
Yup.
Yeah, no, he had that same theory that it was future humans time traveling. And it would make sense why, like, if there is this like paradoxical like loop, like where they can only do so much here, and even after being like discovered, or like if you tell everybody, it creates more problems. So like you could imagine there being like this secret group of people who have access to time travel because they are allowed to know the rules and how to use it, and eventually some way, somehow the information is going to get out that time travel exists, and then that maybe that's just when humanity learned time travel, and then like imagine like 100,000 years from now, like something happened in that time frame that they're coming back to like figure out the exact like steps, it like whatever order of occurrences that led to that decision.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a way to change them.
So there's some cataclysmic event or something,
Yeah.
and they are being time traveling anthropologists going back in time and are actually trying to uncover it. It's like a new level of history or archaeology,
Right.
where you can actually go back. Instead of just digging up fossils, you can go back and actually watch and observe.
See the thing happening.
Yeah.
It's an interesting theory. It's very interesting. I like it. Personally.
I find it interesting. I mean, I can definitely see that as an element, at least, of it. I'm one of the people who thinks any one explanation is oversimplistic for the most part.
Sure. Yeah. But I like it still. I mean, yeah, I don't think I would agree with every point if it was laid out in front of me, but
Yeah.
I have my own idealistic view of it all in my head, what it could be.
So maybe
Kind of
they
pieces and
can't
parts
make
of
themselves known to us until we ourselves invent time travel.
Yeah, and maybe like the sprinkling of like technology is meant to like lead us in that direction over time.
Yeah, starting to sound like Interstellar or something.
Yeah.
Where it's like
Well,
we saved ourselves type
Dude,
thing.
imagine what would happen like to our species after learning and having the capabilities of time travel. It would change everything. Not one thing would stay the same.
One, you'd have to really. That would be something worthy of keeping protected, because how many people have tragic life events where they will stop at nothing to turn back the clock of some tragedy that happened in their life? You know? Think of like the warfare and the terrorism possible across time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And
That's a good point.
But it all comes down to like what version of time travel is it, right? Mm-hmm. Is it like Back to the Future block universe where there is only one timeline, and so if you go back and change something, you have now altered the future? Or is it like
branching, multiversal,
multiversal, so that if you go back and you change something, you have now stranded yourself on a new branch of the time?
Yeah.
Kind of like butterfly effect or something, right? Like he can never go back and fix what he did because he's like every time he changes something, he's on a new branch.
Yep. Yeah, that movie was always crazy to me.
Yeah.
Always blew my mind.
All right, Steven Spielberg, I'm ready for your next
I would love to see something.
UFO movie.
I would like to see give me the truth.
What is his
I don't know.
upcoming movie?
I've just heard like leaks of it. I haven't seen anything
trailer
official.
or anything?
I haven't seen anything official about it.
Untitled.
Science fiction
Begun
film.
filming with Emily Blunt. Interesting. There was another UFO movie I saw a trailer to that's supposed to be coming out soon in the United States, but it's like a AI redub of a Swedish film.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I downloaded that.
It's new,
But
or
I
is it
haven't
old
watched
one?
it yet. It's newly about to release in the United States.
Right, but when did it come out?
But the Swedish one of a different name came out like 2 or 3 years ago
Oh, gotcha.
in Swedish.
Okay.
I'll have to look that up during the break. I think I downloaded it, so I should be able to find it.
And then there's that new Jeremy Corbell documentary.
Oh, yeah?
You haven't heard about that?
Uh-uh.
He just released a new one, or is about to. I think it's out, but it's on like Tubi for free. If you download Tubi or have it on your phone or something, it's on there for free. I don't know if it's on
Tubi
YouTube
trying
yet.
to get relevant.
Yeah, they've been trying real hard. I know a lot of people that use Tubi.
Really? I've never even touched it.
I know a few people that use it.
That's a smart way to. I mean, I'll sign in just to
Be able to check that out.
Yeah. All right. What's this? Some gene edited spider.
I saw this, a week ago. I just thought it was fascinating. We're already getting into gene editing spiders, and Spider-Mans will be out soon.
Glowing red silk threads. That's not the photo we're looking at, but this is clearly AI. Oh, yeah. I guess these. Scientists at the University of Bayreuth in Germany have successfully used CRISPR-Cas9 to create the world's first gene-edited spider that produces glowing red silk. The research team, led by Professor Dr. Thomas Scheibel, targeted the common house spider. I'm not going to say that Latin name, and inserted a gene that codes for red fluorescent protein. To achieve this, they micro-injected the CRISPR-Cas9 complex along with the desired gene into the unfertilized spider eggs. The spiders were anesthetized with carbon dioxide during the procedure. After mating, their offspring began producing silk that fluoresced red under specific lighting. The development not only marks a major breakthrough in genetic engineering of arachnids, but also opens doors for biomaterials research, such as producing customizable silks for medical, textile, or industrial applications. I know what starts this way.
Yeah.
Bro, can I be Spider-Man?
That's what I'm saying, man. That's so funny.
That's like
If
one of
that
the most
becomes real.
desirable superhero power sets, right?
Yeah, I agree.
I'd rather be Spider-Man than be able to fly.
I think so. It'd be fun.
Yeah, the swinging just sounds so fun.
Yeah. And you get strength, and you get speed, and you get stamina, and all those things. Yeah, and a spidey sense.
I'd probably have to move to a big city so I had tall enough buildings, though.
I mean, Sacramento would be all right for a little while.
Yeah, I mean, you get bored going around the same, like, tiny...
Yeah. Basically the 1 or 2 towers that are there.
Yeah. Go somewhere like, at least San Francisco.
At least.
Yeah, that's at least got a good downtown area
The
where
West Coast Spider-Man.
you can get a bunch of height off of that. And then at least
And
all
you got the
the
Golden Gate
neighborhoods
Bridge.
around there are at least like 3-4 story buildings for the rest of the city.
And you got like...
Oh, yeah, the bridges would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be fun. Go underneath them, swing it along the water. I'm in. Sign me up.
That's awesome.
Will be the first test.
All right. What's this?
Yeah, so this is from Space for Earth X account, or is it Instagram? It's Instagram. This incredible footage is from the You Matter exhibit at the Bradford 2025 UK City of Culture event, sponsored by the National Science and Media Museum and produced by Marshmallow Laser Feast. This immersive art experience is intended to show how everything on Earth is connected, including us, and makes that connection visible. Satellites track photosynthesis by measuring solar-induced chlorophyll fluorescence, or SIF, which is a faint glow emitted by plants that indicates the rate of carbon dioxide intake Combined with other metrics like the greenness index, which uses near-infrared remote sensing to measure the amount of chlorophyll in plants. Research teams from NASA, NOAA, JPL, Caltech, and more are uncovering new insight into our beautiful planet. So, yeah, this is measured from satellites like the Japanese Greenhouse Gases Observing Satellite and the Carbon Observatory and others. But yeah, it's supposed to show like the pulse
photosynthesis
and like the carbon dioxide.
Oh, interesting.
So it's literally showing like the pulsing like nature of the air being produced and moved and like consumed.
Interesting. Wow.
It's showing like these like heartbeat type and like intricate systems.
Yeah. It does seem like a heartbeat. Is there audio on this or just music?
I think it's just music, but
okay.
I could be wrong.
Let's see real quick. Just sound effects.
Yeah. Heartbeat. Boom, boom, boom.
That's cool. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty awesome.
Huh. All right. What's this one? Oh, cool.
Yeah, so we gotta listen to the audio on this one.
All right, let me restart it here.
When you got pregnant, that's when I chose you.
What do you mean?
Yeah, I chose you when you got pregnant.
How did you choose me? Like, can you explain it to me?
So, like, if wherever I look, and if there's like parents, there's stairs, and if I press the button, I get to like walk down.
And where were you when this was happening?
In heaven.
You were in heaven while this was happening,
Yeah.
and you chose
No.
mommy and daddy. And
Yeah.
what?
There's like a low cloud, and it was like all fluffy, like so comfortable, but nobody could see anything. Like the cloud, the babies, the stairs.
That sounds really cool.
So I can just, like, I'm like a ghost. I can just like go into your belly.
I love that.
Can you tell that?
Yeah, I can. Thank you for choosing me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's kind of reminds me of a lot of those stories from the reincarnation
Yeah.
and like the children's accounts of being reincarnated.
Sure. I just get automatically skeptical when it's posted on social media in like a format like that.
No, I know. There are a lot of people who script these things. And
Yeah.
will post anything just to get reactions. I get.
I mean, I like the idea, and like I could see a kid saying something like that to their parent. I don't know if I've felt that felt natural though.
Yeah, I've seen a couple other ones that people post.
But that's super interesting.
There was one where like a little girl was like, "I used to be a pirate. I wish I could be a pirate again." And she starts talking about, when she was big and before her mom was alive.
Yeah.
That was like her last life was being a pirate.
The thing that gets me about this is in her description here, she's saying it's his 7th birthday. And if you remember in the reincarnation series we did, it's usually over by about that age.
Yeah.
It usually starts around 3, and I think it goes to like 5 or 6, like 7 sometimes. So it could, but
I was gonna say there was a few of the cases where they talked about how like they had kind of embraced the idea of it, and some of those children like held on to the idea for longer because they kind of embraced it.
I can see that. So yeah, if you have parents who are into this type of stuff and they're open to it and they aren't coaching you away from thoughts like that.
Yeah. It could extend those.
But the other thing that kind of gets me is it just sounds very classical Christian in a way. Like I'm sitting on a cloud in heaven
with their
kind
stairs
of thing.
And I chose you.
But that also could just be, the child's cultural lens and the best he is able to do with his words to
Yeah.
express it, right? So, I don't know.
Either way, I thought it was because it reminded me exactly of like our talks on that and what some of the kids and the reports were in that
Yeah.
reincarnation book.
And he must talk about this a lot because she didn't sound super surprised.
Well, and that's what I was imagining in my head is like, you know, a 7-year-old that maybe has said similar type things, like, and their parents were just curious and didn't like, you know, shoot them down right away.
Yeah.
And like they were able to talk about it openly. And maybe this is just the first time or a time
that they
that
recorded it
they
and
mentioned
posted it.
yeah, they were like putting it down on the table. And because, you know, with kids you get in like these routines, like you sit down at the table and there's like a certain time of the day where you know your kid opens up
Yeah.
a bit more
And
like
so
just
maybe she
freely
like just puts it there recording the
hoping-
ceiling.
yeah
Because she never knows the next time it's going to come up.
yeah
And then it does. And this
and
edited
kids will
clip goes
and kids
up.
do shy away from cameras like Wyatt.
Sure,
Like he'll
sure.
be saying all sorts of stuff and like, you know, but then as soon as you put a camera at him, he's like, you know,
Yeah.
clams up,
Right.
which is normal.
Totally.
Nobody likes a camera shoved in their face when they're trying to talk to you, you know.
Yeah, guys. Cool.
But
All right. Well, I think we
let's
hit our
take a break.
first break here. So we'll be back in just a few.
in a jiff.
If I had a nickel for every time I lied to myself, I'd buy myself some common sense and make those cents stack into dollars. I'll bury them deep, not to be bothered, so I don't spend it again on me again. Well, no, 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 not on me again. If I were to invest all of my life's riches in you, someone like you, I would be a fool to pretend I'd be giving you the wrong impression. I can't invest in someone like you. I think it's something about your currency that doesn't sit easy with me, but I understand you have the riches of 1,000 men and always handled opportunities well, invested in stocks as others fell, always had the cash flow to keep your feet on the go. Well, you were always a capitalist of love's riches. If I were to invest all of my life's riches in you, someone like you, I would be for every time I lied.
Welcome back.
Welcome. That was TJ McNulty. The song was called Nickels and Dimes.
I like that one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right. Started doing a little earbud change out there.
Gotta keep one ear on the babes. All right, so you also brought this. Let me show you guys. This is a UFO video.
Yeah, I don't know or think this is true, but it's very interesting to think about. So this guy's putting like some sort of electrical current to this glass
Yes,
and made it like transparent,
Смотрите.
even more transparent. And then look at this. So he's supposedly holding it to the lens of the camera. And then watch when he takes it away.
А теперь смотрите, прикол. Робот.
And he does this a
Вот
couple
она,
times. Up and
инопланетная
down.
стекляшка. Кусок стекла. Так, я, короче, сейчас ближе скажу, посмотрю. Вышечки снимал.
Looks like that tetrahedron.
Yeah, it does.
Блять.
Dude, imagine if there's like some sort of like lens you could just like get to be able to see these things.
Dude. Aw. If that's real, that's like straight up out of the movie. What's that movie called? They Live. Have you seen that movie?
No, I don't think I have.
Seriously?
I don't think I have.
Oh, it's a classic. It's an old 80s movies before my time.
Yeah.
Even. And it's this guy who walks around. He gets like a special pair of glasses, and when he puts it on,
I've
he
seen clips
sees-
from this. And he sees the people as they truly are, like
a bunch of
demons
aliens
and stuff.
Yeah. And there's a bunch
I've seen
of like
clips where I haven't seen the movie,
propaganda
but-
all around. It says
Yeah.
like Obey and stuff, and that's where the Obey brand gets their
Yeah. Okay.
came from.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, it gives me vibes of They Live. If it's just
true,
like you just
imagine.
need like special glasses to put on, boom, just freaking UFOs everywhere.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what happened on my drive home. Somehow I just freaking snapped into like seeing some weird thing, and then it went away.
Yeah.
Or I'm
Can't
just
prove 'em
freaking
wrong.
hallucinating while I'm driving, which is
After a long
super not disturbing at all. All right. And then you also brought another Instagram clip. The clearest shape-shifting UFO sighting I think I've ever seen. Okay. You got me interested. Whoa.
It does a bunch of crazy maneuvers here.
All right, so we have class 10 for Skywatchers now. Well, no, class 10's the saucer. This got to be class 11.
Is it?
Well, because remember
They describe the tetrahedron kind of like this though too.
shape-shifting.
Yeah, like it like at certain angles it like looks like a different shape.
Huh.
This is crazy though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, other than like a tarp blowing away in like the near distance, you know, like not super far away.
That's the air mattress I lost.
Where does it say it's at? In Florida, Green Cove, Florida, where they have hurricanes.
No, that's someone's comment.
No, I'm talking about just this video in general. It says, it says up
Gringo,
there.
Florida. Yeah. That's where my car cover went.
Yeah, see, that could be an explanation for that. Sort of.
Yeah, I mean,
And like, if one side's reflective and then like you're seeing like the outside folding in and out of, and then you see the reflective side every once in a while,
yeah.
like right there.
I think I'm over the need to like see video evidence.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you just can't trust video anymore.
Can't anymore. No, that's absolutely true.
Like, how do you know that's not just
It's
some
fun to
CGI?
look at, yeah.
Yeah, no, I want to see
Or
them,
even just a
but
tarp or a car cover, you know?
it's really like we need a shift in consciousness, and
We need an actual event to happen.
yeah, we need like a Bashar type thing to happen where they just like there's
Full
a set
contact.
date and it's just like they're going to be hovering
And
all
just
over the world.
Get used to the
and
idea that they're here.
they
yeah.
will just chill there and everyone can come see them, right?
Yep.
Like I would need kind of something like that. I mean, I already believe there's something going on, so like I don't need video for that.
It's just more of like we want to find out what is the goal here, what's the plan here,
Yeah.
what's going to happen, what's the contact, what's the disclosure, what's this all going to be in the end. Let's get to that point instead of waiting 20 more years for everything to play out behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, and if it is NHI, non-human intelligence, like, come on. Like, we are, as a population, I think we're ready. I think there are going to be people who are freaking out, but that's going to happen no matter what. And I think there's a good chunk of the population now. You know, maybe there's a tipping point that we're unaware of. Maybe there's a certain
Yeah.
amount that they need to be aware of it and okay with it.
They're waiting for a certain amount of us to
Be able to handle it.
yeah.
Maybe there's some psychological thing that we're unaware of that they're tracking.
Well, because I think
Maybe.
even within believers, there's still a good amount of people, even within that subgroup, who are scared of it
When
or
don't want to know.
are
Don't actually want to know.
no, or they do, but like they think that it represents some sort of
True.
like evil, like they have some sort of like crazy thing attached to the idea that they exist, so that if they find out it's real, they're going to go straight to that.
Mm-hmm.
So how much better is that than people not even ready to, you know what I mean? Like
do, yeah.
someone who doesn't believe versus someone who does but believes something kind of crazy about them, or is ultra subscribed to a specific theory.
Yeah, so then anything outside of
It's
their
like a
theory
step in the right direction.
cause fear and anxiety and
Right.
and rejection. And,
Right.
Yeah.
Like how many people think they're angels or demons and are going to think this is, you know, apocalypse. So they do believe in them, but they think, you know, once the UFO show up all over the world, that's freaking,
That's the end.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I
No,
think
that's a good. That's a great point.
it's more than just people
It's more than just
being-
believing. It's more
Yeah.
than it's actually fundamentally understanding that, like being aware of what the actual like.
yeah. Like, do you believe or when you find out this stuff is real, are you ready to be open-minded about what is actually happening?
And what it
You know?
means now. Yeah, what it means to live amongst the information of being like that we're not alone, you know?
Yeah.
If that's even the case, right? If it's not time travelers from 100,000 years from now, which would likely look like aliens to us now.
That's true.
100,000 years, even more in some cases. Like, I mean, like the way what he was describing is like 500,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine 500,000 years, a million years in the future.
I mean, that is alien. Even if it's
Absolutely.
us. Like,
Yeah,
it's like
absolutely. They
the-
speak a different language.
The term alien, right?
Yeah.
Means something different, right?
Mhm.
Something other than
Foreign,
you, right?
yeah.
Something foreign to you. So Roman times is alien as well to us,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right?
Yep.
You know, the time of Jesus, you go back to ancient Rome, like
Yeah.
that's alien. Humans 500,000 years in the future are also alien to us. And language shifts so fast you probably can't even communicate.
I mean, if they're
At
not
least
already
not
speaking
verbally.
if they're not already speaking telepathically.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. All right. So let me, one of the things I listened to this week was this Andrew Gallimore interview.
Oh yeah.
You know who he is, right? So for those of you who don't, Andrew Gallimore is he's a neuroscientist. He's a
biological.
Yeah,
something.
I think he's like I don't know, his neurologist or neuroscientist. He
Something like
studies
that,
the
yeah.
brain, but he's fascinated by psychedelics and specifically DMT. I'm gonna have to find a clip from this interview during the next break, because he goes on this epic rant about how DMT is not easily explained away as a hallucination.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because when you understand the brain as deeply as he does and how the brain constructs reality, it's constantly constructing a world model, right? How did he explain it? It's your brain is constantly constructing this world model, and you constantly, like, when your eyes are open and you're engaged in the world and you're awake, he says the activity is moving from the back of the brain where the senses are coming in and to the front of the brain for processing. Like, it's
Right.
constantly checking its model against the sensory input, looking for error. But the brain, like, what you see when you are looking around is you're not seeing what your senses detect. You're seeing the model that your brain constructs.
Right.
And that's
Based off
constantly
the
being
information
informed
is fed.
by the senses.
Yeah.
And so if something
New
the
was to
senses
happen.
is showing is different than what your model is showing,
Yeah.
it'll flash errors, and then your brain will pay more attention. And that's like where,
find
like,
out the
that's where you
information.
get those like double take moments from.
Like your
Looking at the plane.
spacecraft earlier, yeah.
And he says that there's this interesting thing that happens is that, like, when you close your eyes in a normal state of consciousness, you close your eyes, the information stops moving from back to forward and starts moving from forwards to back, because there's no sense information for your brain to be checking against.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
And then he says, but under DMT, with your eyes closed, the information is not moving forward to back. It's moving back to forward as if you're receiving sensory input. Closed eyes DMT.
Really?
Yeah. Which he's like, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And then he just had a couple interesting quips too.
So, yeah, you said that he is of the, like, that psychedelics aren't necessarily producing a hallucination, is what his idea is.
Well, he's, as a neuroscientist, he has a deep understanding of what hallucination is. And so someone, I don't know if he's talking about a specific story or just like a general, but he's like, if someone said, or no, the guy who was interviewing him, this was on Third Eye Drops. Have you ever seen that YouTube channel?
I don't think so. Third Eye Drops? No.
Yeah. Which I always thought it was like, oh, it's like drops. Like, yo, let me drop that beat.
Oh.
But then I realized, no, it's eye drops for your third eye.
Oh, Third Eye Drops. Yeah,
It's a clever name.
That's
By Michael Phillips. So we'll link to this. This guy, this is good. Anyway, like a Carl Sagan quote about like something about how Carl Sagan thought that hallucinogen, or that, psychedelics were actually causing hallucinations. And Andrew Gallimore is like, yeah, but what does fucking Carl Sagan know about hallucination? He's a fucking, he's a astronomer. He's a physicist. He's not a neuroscientist. He doesn't understand what hallucination is. Like that's just someone who has some sort of position of authority stating something that sounds scientific, because he doesn't actually know. I know what hallucination is, and DMT does not follow the pattern of hallucination. And I found that to be, and I thought that was an interesting example, because how many of us are so, like, these science communicators and stuff, like how many, we're so susceptible to someone that we know as a smart person proclaiming something about the way something is, or giving an explanation of something, even if it's reductive, right? And just putting their opinion above our own and taking it too seriously. But, as Andrew Gallimore points out, that's not his area of expertise. That's my area of expertise. He has no idea what he's talking about. He has nothing to back up his claims. He's just using, hot button words. It's no different than like you or I proclaiming to someone what we think quantum physics is about. Right. Or Andrew Gallimore trying to tell Carl Sagan what's going on in quantum physics. Carl Sagan will be like, all right, no.
Yeah, stay in your lane.
Right. So.
But it doesn't go the other way.
Anyway, yeah, so that was one of the examples he gave for why it doesn't follow what you would expect of a hallucination.
Right.
And he says specifically also, as like when you study the neurology of people who do have hallucinations, like psychotics and whatnot, that information stream does not show that same behavior. Like it's still front to back when their eyes are closed, but it's only under DMT, even though the eyes are closed, it's still going back to forth as if your world model is being informed by sensory data, the same way as when you're normal.
So it's just a different sensory data, maybe. Yeah, it's just a different set of sensors.
Right.
That are opened and active at the time.
And then he made this super interesting point later on in the conversation, and they had moved on and they were talking about, and he's kind of just, they're just talking about what they think the DMT quote unquote trip actually is. Like, what are these entity encounters? And he makes the point that, so first off, he establishes himself as an idealist versus a materialist.
Okay.
So, like the difference, right? Like, so classic, or like the conventional scientific worldview is scientific materialism. Reductionism is the idea that the world is made of matter and energy that is observable by the scientific method, and everything that we can study using the scientific method, all the phenomena we observe build up from that matter and energy.
Okay.
Whereas idealism goes back to like Plato, and it's the idea that consciousness or ideas or forms are prior to matter versus the other way around.
It's the mind before matter, or matter before mind.
Right. So you can see those as, and then are some people who are dualists who believe that their materialism is right insofar as it's right, but then there's also some sort of
other
realm of consciousness, and the two are interacting somehow.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, so Gallimore, he's like, yeah, I'm a scientist, and a lot of people think that because I'm a scientist and I talk scientific and I analyze everything, that I must be a materialist.
Right.
But I'm not. I'm one of the few, prominent scientists out there who's actually an idealist.
Oh, okay.
And so he thinks consciousness is primary.
Before matter.
Yeah. And he thinks, and the conversation goes on, and he was talking about how he has this sort of theory for what is actually happening when you encounter an entity under DMT or another psychedelic.
Like, what's the actual manifestation of that's happening, or what?
Well, like a sort of explanatory theory of like, it is just speculation. He doesn't have evidence for it.
Okay, I thought he was gonna say he like saw like certain brain activity.
No,
or something.
no. This is just him trying to like spitball and
I gotcha.
speculate in like
Okay.
what is actually happening, right?
Right.
You can't prove all this yet, but like that's the aspiration, obviously, over time.
So this is his theory on it.
Yeah. So he's like, what if what's happening is that when you go into one of these states, that these entities that seem to appear as certain forms, they're just taking on a form to present to you. And what if it's not that necessarily you are traveling somewhere and experiencing an entity that's already there that looks this or that way? What if instead what's happening is that there are these consciousnesses that exist in the universe, and when you take something like DMT, it gives them the ability to
interact.
They can interact with your brain.
Like the key.
They're like, you've unlocked something cool. Let me start manipulating your brain and interacting with you in this way. And because I'm in here playing with your brain circuitry, let me present myself this way to you.
Wow.
And
based on maybe some priors.
Yeah. So like, what if it's more that there are already these beings around us, and when you take something like DMT,
you're just unlocking.
You're essentially
the door to them,
right?
Yeah.
So they can.
That's kind of what we talked about before, like this idea that it's a peek behind the curtain. Like when we talked about Jeremy Renner's like NDE and like the NDE phenomena, like getting a peek behind the curtains, like an all access pass for a short amount of time.
Yeah, but it's almost like reverse of what you would think. It's not that like you're seeing something as it truly is, like the veil's being lifted. He's saying instead, no, it's still, even though you're under the influence, you are still in your brain and you are still experiencing what your brain is creating as its model. But now the DMT entity can
inject sensory inputs,
influence your brain because it's under the influence of DMT to make it experience this or that.
I see. Okay.
So it's not that you have a veil coming off, it's that you've set yourself up in a way that an entity can come in and show you things.
Interesting. Okay. So the DMT unlocks the brain, but there still has to be the connection between an entity.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought it was a super interesting, different way to consider what might be happening, which I had never considered before.
That is very interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then they kept talking, and there was another thing he said that I found super interesting.
Isn't Andrew Gallimore the one that emailed us, their publicist?
The publicist did, yeah.
Or the publishing company?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we should reach out to him.
Totally.
Talk to him about some of this stuff.
There was another thing he brought up where he was talking about there's like new areas of research right now with DMT. And they were talking about DMT as a technology. And it's almost like this, he had this super cool idea. It's almost like this intelligence puzzle, where this molecule exists in everything.
Sure.
And you have to prove you're smart enough to be able to access it, because you can't just like go around eating things and have the experience because it's not orally active. So first you have to display a certain level of intelligence in order to make it orally active. Enter ayahuasca. You mixing it with a MAO inhibitor, right?
Yeah,
and
figured
then
that puzzle out.
And that gets
Somehow.
you a certain distance in the technology. And then you want to have a more pure experience, but now you have to realize that it's not orally active, and so you have to be able to isolate the compound in order to smoke it. And now you've stepped up in the next level of technology and the next level of intensity. And then the next level is actually Andrew Gallimore's technology called DMTX. Have you heard of this?
Yeah.
So this is extended state DMT.
Oh, is this the one that they're doing in the lab where
Yeah.
they're giving people like
So-
injections for
yeah.
like hours at a time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's right.
So him and Rick Strassman, who wrote the DMT, the spirit molecule,
Yeah.
the two of them worked together and they created, they did the science requisite in order to create a protocol that allows for intravenous drip DMT to keep
Slow,
you in
long
the
drip.
DMT state.
Yeah. For prolonged periods with guided sessions too, right?
Yeah, so like now it's not just that you smoke it and you get this super intense experience, but you're back in 10 minutes. Now you can stay there for an hour or 2 hours, and science can, help take care of your body while you're just gone, right? And then he's like, but there's another level, and this is what he's working on now, is what they're trying to do is unlock endogenous DMT.
I was going to say, when you were explaining like the different ways, I was going to say like endogenous DMT would be the purest form.
Yeah.
Because it's already something that's within your body. You don't have to like inject anything. You don't have to
Right.
smoke anything. You don't have to eat anything. And I can imagine like it's assumed now in my mind, at least I've come to the realization that DMT is probably what is injected or like is probably what's going like being pumped out during like near death experiences and or death and birth. Like your body is like your mind is being like formed under and like destroyed under those circumstances of being under this endogenous chemical, in my view.
Yeah.
From all of the accounts of near death experiences and coming back, and then like the people who are on their deathbed and like experience euphoria and they see the light and they see all these things and like they start like having an experience. Like that's probably what it's so, and unlocking it is something that would be insane, like something that you can like do within yourself to make it release at night, or you can lay down and just like have a thought or something, or
Yeah, so
unless it's easier than that, you push a button.
I think the way he describes the endogenous method they're trying to go for is that the body's always creating DMT, is I think what he's talking about.
Okay.
Or at least in the specific animal that they're testing. I think it was a rabbit or something. Or at least that there was there was a scientist who did research with a rabbit. It was like back in the 70s regarding this endogenous DMT, and no one's like cited or picked up this research and like taken it forward, and that's what he's doing now.
I see.
But essentially it was something to the effect, I don't want to butcher this, but that the body's always creating DMT, and that there are certain inhibitors in the body that are constantly removing it. And so what he's trying to come up with is a way
so is it always
to
active then?
inhibit the inhibitors, so that your body's natural projection or natural production of DMT is not constantly being waned. Instead, it will slowly build up over time if you can inhibit the thing in your body that is removing it from your bloodstream.
Yeah, I mean that sounds crazy.
And then you're not taking someone's chemical creation of DMT. Instead, it's your own body creating it, and you're just setting it up so that you're not getting rid of it. And then he was talking about like, well, and then imagine if we can unlock this technology and you can essentially set what level of endogenous DMT you want to have access to at any given point in time.
Yeah, it's just like the mechanism for unlocking it.
Like you can
Like,
walk through the world with like just
if
a
it's still you're
slightly
taking a
elevated
pill.
natural level.
Sure. Well, I mean, sounds like any. Because, I mean, maybe DMT is like a part of like imagination and like creativity and intuition and like.
Or even the ability for us to have the phenomena of experiencing what the brain model or something, you know?
Like being like self-aware.
Yeah, like maybe
Like
just
the DMT is like the only thing that's like making us self-aware.
yeah, like maybe just that little bit that is constantly being removed but produced
Is
maintaining our ability to have
The
an
experience of
awareness.
ourselves.
Yeah, the experience of ourselves. Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
way to put it. But then at higher levels or whatever, that's when you start experiencing more than what the brain is meant to filter out, right?
Fascinating.
Yeah,
I
this is a super good podcast. I'll leave you guys a
I'm going
link
to sleep
to
on
it.
that one tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's take a quick break here. And yeah, we'll be back shortly for another segment.
All right.
See you in a bit.
Reborn. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah. It's 9:15. Sun shining through the blind signs of a good day. Remind me of the good times when everything was okay. Laying in the sunlight, pumping bikes, homies on the pegs, living a young life. One time we almost got locked up for doing some dumb shit. Tagging trains on a subway, just a bunch of young kids with my boy Jose. Back in the days, we were just kids. On a Sunday, now I'm cooler than a Sunday. Chopping us some Sade, cooking us some fried eggs. No days off shit, you can call it Wale. Pare, ano ba ang nangyari? Di na tayo bago naglalaro sa kalye. Kumusta na si ate? I heard she got a kid on the way. I hope she grows to be like you one day. Minus the pain that we went through, all the places that we've been to. This is for the dollar, many days that we ate through. Stay dedicated for the place I was raised to. Appreciate every plate full of food. I am thankful. It's the simple things in life I am grateful. Humble beginnings, this is why I'm forever faithful. Stay true to life. I love you and I hate you. Spread you like the wings of an angel. Fly with me. We can take the skies, you and I. We correlate and coincide. It's Sunday vibes when I'm with you. Exactly how I feel, like Sunday morning jazz running through my ears, and you put me at ease like the beats that I rock with. Peace to my homies still back on the islands, grinding, fighting every single day. But no matter what they say, you gotta keep on surviving. You gotta keep on shining. But for now, just let that Sunday vibes in. Live and direct for my homies that I build with. Back to the wall like I'm back on a building. Ride for the cause just cause you feel different. They hate on my sound cause I'm young, brown and gifted. Plus I'm an immigrant, reborn as king again. Better than I've ever been before and it's evident. I represent for the first class of the unheard. Spit fire every breath till my lungs burn. Yeah. And it feels so good just to let it all out. From my soul to the ground up, never coming down. Yeah. It feels so good just to let it all out. From my soul, from the ground up, never coming down. Yeah. Reborn. I dedicate this to everyone I've ever encountered. This is for you.
Welcome back.
Yeah, it's a cool little outro to the song.
I didn't know that was coming.
Yeah.
It's like menu music for like a old video game.
Ooh, yeah. I can see that.
Yeah. It's like when you die, it's like retry.
That was M-Born, and the song is called Sunday Vibes from the Reborn mixtape.
Hell yeah.
Dude, I love that song. It's such like a good
Yeah.
vibe.
Yeah. All right, y'all. We are drinking Boochcraft this week.
Yeah.
I'm on the spiced pear. I'm about 3 in on these. Is pretty good.
Is that what I got right now? Yes.
Spiced pear?
I haven't had a sip yet.
It's pretty good. Pretty good.
Ooh, yeah. That's tasty.
I'm going to read a passage from Meditations. This is the last passage, last few paragraphs of Book 7. Nature moves to make the universe. Sorry, one second.
I was like, okay.
Nature moves to make the universe, but now either everything that takes place comes by the way of consequence or continuity, or the chief ruling power of the universe, which directs is governed by no rational principle. If this is remembered, it will make you more tranquil in many things.
Oh, we got some babes that need attention.
Oops.
Don't lose your spot there.
Yeah.
We'll be right back, people. A little break after the break. All right. And we're back.
All right, so after that quick break, kids woke up as soon as we came back from a break. So.
I want to make a little sound effect and graphic. It was like, boop, emergency parental break.
Yeah, that's
We will
good,
be
yeah.
right back
Little
after these
pop-up.
messages.
That'd be
And have a
funny.
little elevator music.
I'm
So-
gonna reread this since
We never got to actually discuss it, and
Yeah.
now I lost it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna reread it. I'm actually gonna go from the paragraph above too, though.
Okay.
No man is tired of receiving what is useful, but it is useful to act according to nature. Do not then be tired of receiving what is useful by doing it to others. Nature moves to make the universe, but now either everything that takes place comes by way of consequence or continuity, or the chief ruling power of the universe, which directs it, is governed by no rational principle. If this is remembered, it will make you more tranquil in many things.
I'm not getting the distinction he's making there. He's so...
Nature moves to make the universe, but now either everything that takes place comes by way of consequence or continuity,
So,
or the chief ruling power of the universe, which directs it's governed by no rational principle.
so it comes by nature, continuity, or the chief mover of the universe?
Yeah, which will direct it's governed by no rational principle necessarily.
Right. So if the creator of the universe makes something happen, it doesn't necessarily have to follow our logical laws.
Yeah. It can just be what it is.
But nature or consequence? Is that what he said?
It's either by consequence or continuity.
Continuity.
That's what he said.
Interesting.
So, like consequence for your actions or continuity with your ideal version of your life, or like,
Or just like a continuation of what has been.
yeah. That's kind of what I'm.
Consequence being you making something happen, continuity being it's something that was already happening and then
Almost
or by
predestined.
the creator of the universe. And if that's the case, maybe it follows the physical law, maybe it makes sense in some sort of way, but it doesn't have to.
It doesn't have to. Yeah, that's the distinction.
Huh.
Okay.
That's interesting. Let's see what our tarot card is this week.
All right.
It is upside down. We got the Empress.
Oh, we've gotten that one before.
Have we?
I believe so.
Yeah, we have, haven't we?
This one's upside down, though.
It is, yeah. Here, why don't you just grab it?
Oh, get back to me. So this is the card,
Which,
is actually
upside down, yeah.
upside down. And it's a lady holding some sort of scepter in her right hand, wearing a crown of stars, wearing a flowery, long flowing dress or garb, sitting on like a red blanketed chair or seat with the female symbol in a heart below her, and a forest in the background with like what looks like wheat or something in the foreground.
So on tarot.com, here, let me put you. Yeah, wheat in the foreground. So on tarot.com, it says the reversed meaning, because the Empress represents nature, when she is reversed, she has tremendous natural power to correct her heedless children. Volcanoes, tsunamis, hurricanes, and the like symbolize violent emotions triggered by ignorant or foolish humans. If you feel like being corrective, you are probably justified. But set limits on how punitive you allow yourself to be. You don't want to go too far and destroy all you have taken so much delight in.
So it's almost like calling for a reset, calling for a reimagination or rediscovery
Yeah.
without the fully destructive behavior of tearing everything down to the
Well,
brick and mortar.
keep in mind this is a meaning for you, right? So if she represents nature normally, then reverse, she represents like a big calamity to nature. But it's a reading for you, so it's saying if you feel like being corrective, you probably can be, and you're justified in doing so.
It says you don't want to go too far though and destroy
Yeah.
everything you've taken so much
So
delight
it's
in.
like,
So it's like
warning you against being like a Demeter figure from Greek mythology who freezes the world and kills so many humans because her daughter is missing, right?
okay.
Demeter is like the goddess of like the harvest, and so yeah, I think in Greek mythology, well, versions of it anyway, Persephone, Demeter's daughter, is the wife of Hades, and she has to spend half of her time in Hades or in hell.
Yeah.
Well, the Greek version of the afterlife, which is Hades, and then she spends half of the year with Demeter, and this is like it's a really cool like symbolic explanation of like the seasons. And so when Persephone is back with Demeter, she's happy and she allows like spring and summer to bloom. But then when Persephone goes back into Hades, into the underworld, Demeter is feeling distraught at the absence of her daughter, and she brings on winter and
Interesting.
the cold.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting from that a bit. It's like
So it's almost like this card, like in upright, it's like happy Demeter, and down reversed, it's like the rage.
So what would you ascribe it to the meaning that you set?
Well, as always, I'm saying what is a card that is a lesson we can learn as us and the podcast and the listeners. So it's saying if you feel like being corrective, you're probably justified. So if someone's done something to you, nip it in the bud and scold them for it. Just don't be overly punitive for it, right? Like,
right. Tearing
like
down,
Demeter,
burning the bridges.
when her daughter is taken from her, she can be upset and she can scold someone for it. And you can bring winter. Just don't bring the Ice Age,
Yeah. Yeah, don't destroy humanity. Don't destroy, but maybe
don't burn bridges.
Accept your
as a reaction to your injustice, but
allow yourself to.
That's an interesting balance to try and walk.
Yeah, but allow yourself to feel.
If you feel like you're being wrong, just stand up for yourself and do something about it.
The things in your life that you feel are being unjustly.
Yeah.
It's a good card.
Some interesting symbols on this card from the Ultimate Guide to Rider.
What do we got?
Waite Tarot. The flowered robe, it says here. The beauty of nature and a person's coming into bloom. The flowers are similar to the sign of Venus, red, white, and green. The colors of the magician and nature's colors. Flowers to the people, bread and roses. The gray heart. The gray heart, calmly unprejudiced. There you go. The gray heart, calmly unprejudiced. All creatures and all impulses have a chance and a raison d'existence.
Raison d'existence.
A reason for existing. If the heart is of stone, individuality degenerates into egoism, which has no time for others. The grain, it says, is a symbol of fruitfulness and reaping life's harvest. Nutrition for body and soul, feeding and caring for oneself and others. Well-being, ease, sensuality, enjoyment, feeling good. Then on the right side of the card, there's a waterfall.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even notice that until now.
It says the river is connected with its source, and at the same time, it flows and falls. The tower is not the only image associated with flying and falling. The flowing forward and the bond with the wellspring, both equally important.
Okay.
And it says also the color yellow. Sun, awareness of one's consciousness, the highest and holiest. Search for meaning, but also envy, gold, greed, danger, back towards the sun equals repression. Positive, lights up the other side as well equals reliable awareness. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting that we're getting doubles all of a sudden, and we've still barely scratched the surface of the tarot deck.
Yeah, I think the last time we got the Empress, it was in the old deck.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, tarot's fascinating.
All right, so I
now what? What do you got?
Want to share with you some of the stuff I picked up from
reading that book from John
Mack, Abductions.
Okay.
So he has a really interesting just take on abduction in general, and he notices a lot of patterns, but he also points out in the beginning of the book that his subset of abductees that he's worked with that like form his data set seem to overly represent people who have had some sort of like spiritual knowledge or enlightenment or like life growth out of the experience.
Okay. Like a large percentage of them?
As compared to other people's data set of experiencers.
Okay.
So he notes in the early part of the book that he's not sure if that has something to do with him or his specific, for some reason, randomly, his specific subset of people he's worked with.
Okay.
Maybe his style, maybe the way he makes people feel comfortable enough to explore these aspects and like break down barriers. But it's funny that he says that, because still some of the chapters, like there are some very negative associations with the abduction experience. It's just, it seems to me that he gives people a sort of a safe space, and it seems to me that he spends a lot of effort helping people integrate their experience and find
the words for it, and
find like what. So it seems like a lot of the people who have these experiences end up sort of traumatized, right? Because I mean, just imagine, right? Like you have this experience where you're taken from the place you feel safest in the world, right? Your own bedroom, your own bed, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you are sort of a plaything for these entities that you don't understand, and you can do nothing to stop whatever it is that they have initiated by taking you and whatever they do with you when they do take you. Like that loss of power, that loss of control, like that's a traumatic experience.
Yeah, I can definitely imagine.
Yeah. Oh, we need to take another little pause.
Elevator music break.
All right. Well, we're actually just about ready for some music, so we'll hop back into John Mack here in just a second.
Sounds good. We'll be right back.
All right.
I can't take this anymore. Oh, I tried so hard to fight it. Yeah, I went out to war. Oh, I don't know what to do instead. Oh, 'cause all I've known for so long, yeah, all I've known is dead.
Welcome back.
All right. Welcome back, y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's jump into some of the book here.
Yeah.
You got some stuff you wanted to pull from it?
Yeah, so this is from, what chapter is this? Page 104.
Summer of 92.
Summer of was that at the top of the pages?
Yeah.
So it's this guy named Scott, and his whole family has these abduction experiences.
Really?
Well, his sister, but not his younger sister, but not his younger brother, but they think also his mother.
Okay. So the three of them.
Yeah. And I want to go over these few pages here because this is where he starts getting into this idea of people being, him specifically, but this is why John Mack is including this, is because this is a pattern, is people being essentially bi-species, like biracial, right?
Bispecial.
Bispecial. So people having a sort of like people who feel that they are from the aliens, but also they're also human.
Okay. It's the Isbies.
For sure. So here, let me show you guys. It says here, at the start of the regression, after several 30 to 60 second pauses, Scott spoke of feeling the presence of one of them standing by a table on which he was lying on his back. He was 13 and said that he had never faced or even recalled what happened to him at that age. He perceived a cylindrical tube he estimated to be 4 inches in diameter that was part of a machine near a wall. The image of the tubing, which seemed to be pointing at his chest, was disturbing and faded in and out of his consciousness. He also had images of other tools, like a curved banana-shaped instrument on another nearby table. Soon, he reported seeing a non-human female figure carrying a tray with several cylinders, each containing a little baby in glasses. I'm really mad, Scott said. I don't know what they're doing. The woman who had come quite near him recalled the hallucination he had at 12 or 13 years old of a female figure leaning over his bed. That was earlier in the chapter.
Okay.
Left the room, and Scott realized that the aliens, probably this figure herself, had been taking his seeds for the purpose of making the babies he had just been shown. Scott realizes now that his fear prevented him from looking directly at the beings. Though he had attributed this to their elusiveness, he also speculated that if he had remembered seeing the beings during this or these experiences, he might have told his parents, which the aliens told him not to, for he was part of their family, one of the beings explained. If I'm part of their family, why am I here? Scott asked. I encouraged him to explore that question. He kept getting images of an empty cylinder about 6 inches in diameter and about a foot long with a clear fluid inside. I want to be one of them, and I want to be one of me, Scott said, but I can't be both. Why not? I asked. Then I'm never home either way. Next, Scott reported being taken down into a huge underground rock-walled place by one of a bunch of fast-moving elevators. It was hot there, but better than family here. They know everything about me. There are no secrets. Nevertheless, it's scary and just feels weird. At this point, I felt that Scott was judging the truth of what was happening with his analytical mind, and I encouraged him to report his raw experience, saving the judgment for later. That sounds like coaching on like remote viewing.
Yeah.
Where you gotta shut off the analytical
part of your brain so that you can just focus on what it is that you're experiencing.
Yeah. I just can't believe they're here, Scott said. When they come for me, they know everything I know. He said it made him feel bad that they would not let him talk about these experiences. He wondered, why don't they stay? He received no answer to this question, except that they and we aren't ready. He said the beings are in the process of changing themselves physically so they can breathe here. They don't breathe the same as we do.
Oh, so the entities are the ones changing themselves so that they can breathe here. I wonder if that means they're trying to stay.
Scott revealed other problems for both our species should the aliens' presence be manifest on a large scale too soon. We're not up to their speed, he said. They think much faster than we do, and they're going to make it so they don't hurt us.
Okay.
How would their thinking faster hurt us? I asked. It is confusing when they talk to us with their minds, he replied. Too much information. Our minds are not used to such contact. It's a sensory overload. At this point, the session took an interesting turn. Scott acknowledged that he himself had persisted in denying the existence of the aliens, and I asked him to explore what it was exactly that he was denying. To my surprise, he replied, denying that I am one of them. To acknowledge the being's existence, he said, has meant that he would have to experience a kind of empty feeling, a nostalgia for another domain. I've always known, he said, that I was different, that I wasn't from around here. When he was a child, Scott recalled, I always wanted to run away. I couldn't figure it out. I could run anywhere, but I couldn't get there. He said he knew the beings did not reside in our solar system. Scott grasped then why he had not wanted to look directly at the beings. With some struggle, he said, my humanness doesn't want to see this. What is this? I asked. Them, the human side, he continued, cannot handle the other side. The human being in him reacts with fear like an animal. They appear to be animals, and you act like a scared animal. It's instinct. Nevertheless, he emphasized, humans must stop and realize that the aliens, whom as a child he called Inkies because of their large black eyes, like ourselves, are alive. We need to learn that even though we look different and we think different, we're all life. Scott's narrative moved then into an apocalyptic vision. I've heard increasingly from abductees. Major changes in the world are coming, he said. The aliens will only come when it's safer, but that will not occur until there are less and less of us. As we die off from disease, especially more communicable forms of AIDS that will reach plague proportions. Whoa. This material was frightening and very sad for Scott. He also felt that he was not allowed to speak of it. Although he was positive in his conviction about this, he said, I just hope I was wrong. At this point in the session, Scott shifted to perceiving from the alien perspective, and he saw the Earth as a blue body below him. He had chosen to come here from another planet. He said because it was closest to where we're from. He did not know the name of that planet, but it was yellow, mostly desert, and lacking water. Once there had been trees and water, but something having to do with science, he does not know just what, went wrong. His people went underground. Scott felt sick inside and sobbed as he told of how science destroyed our planet. I asked Scott if he had any further information about how this had come about. He did not, except to observe that somehow the alien species knew before the destruction occurred, but seems to have been powerless to prevent it. After the regression, he recalled that the destruction had occurred because of something they made they couldn't stop.
Like AI.
Ooh. And that on their planet, the aliens live in an artificial environment. With considerable resistance, Scott admitted that the intention of the aliens was to live here. On Earth. But without us, unless humans change, in which case we might be able to live together. Then he contrasted the ways of humans with aliens. Human beings are alone and they don't share. In the alien realm, nobody's in their own world and everybody knows everything. There are no secrets. I asked him about himself. I'm one of them, he said. But in his human identity, he imposes limits on his ability to love and share because of my own ignorance. I asked, what else? Tradition. The whole focus of my life, my independence, he said, because of fear of being hurt, of not getting what you want, fear of not receiving. Human beings have trouble opening up and trusting that it's okay to give and feel love. Change has got to start somewhere, Scott said. And I asked him about his leadership role, to which he had referred earlier, as a kind of intermediary between the two species. There's going to be so much work, he said, and it's going to take a long time. I asked if he thought there was time. Yes, I think so, he replied. He was getting tired, so I asked if there was anything else he wanted to say before sitting up. He said, it's got to be done one way or the other. What's got to be done? I asked. If we don't change, it's going to change for us. Then he added rather sadly, I don't think we can live with them.
You don't think we can live with them peacefully at the same time?
Yeah. After the regression, Scott felt awkward about what he had revealed. He had difficulty trusting the information he'd received because there's nothing that reinforces it when you're growing up. One realm has nothing to do with the other, he said. And we are rarely, if ever, exposed to the existence of the aliens side. Fear simply does not exist in the consciousness of that side. So there is greater freedom there. Yet it is difficult for Scott and makes him sad and afraid to acknowledge anything about the alien world, especially that he is part of it. For that means I am not one of us, humans. I also then, with Scott, about the possibility of integrating his alien and human identities, and he recalled how that just didn't work when I was a kid. That's just not the way people live, he said. People are just different. I told him of 4 or 5 other double agents, in quotes, I was working with, and of the possibility that they're getting together as a group, which he thought would be a good idea. After the session, Scott felt great relief, as if a huge weight had been removed. He recalled that since early childhood, he experienced himself as having 2 personalities, and spoke of how crazy that had always made him feel. He now believes that the doubting and denying of his alien experiences have been a destructive process in his life, and wonders what part telepathy plays in the perception of the dual identity. Before concluding, Scott, Pam, and I talked about the meaning of the perceived alien human project. I don't think they're disposing us. I think they're taking part of us, Scott said. Then they'll have everything we have, and they'll have everything they have. But there are problems with the integrating of our species. For you and I, we are maybe won't mix. We speculated then about the relationship of aliens, apparent presence on our planet, and the accelerating catastrophic destruction of the Earth's living environment. It's not just coincidence, Scott said. From the information he has received, Scott doubts that we will survive our catastrophe, as well as the aliens did theirs. For them, it was not the beginning of science. I mean, they were well into science before this happened. Whatever happened, it was a lot further ahead than we were.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that kind of plays the line of like fear and hope and like being hopeful for a good outcome, but the realistic nature of like they're waiting for us to either mature as a species or they're just going to wait for us to die out before they ever colonize.
Yeah, but the reason I'm sharing this is because he said that they are coming here.
Right.
And the other reason I'm sharing it is because throughout the abduction studies, a very common thread among all the abduction experiencers is this sort of like breeding, which makes me think of like, all right, so let's back up and let's just like paint a hypothetical scenario here, okay? You are a species from a planet who is dying for whatever reason, right? That the ecology on your planet is bad. And you find this like beautiful blue gem of the earth. And so you start coming here. And maybe you send emissaries and scientists and whatever.
Yeah.
And as your whole population is on their way here, you realize like that maybe your physiology doesn't necessarily jive with planet Earth.
Right.
And so instead of you all coming here in your exact form, maybe instead what you do is you abduct a bunch of humans and you mix your genetics with theirs.
See how compatible everything
and
is.
so you make yourselves compatible with Earth rather than doing something to humans, because it's not about us, it's about them.
Yeah.
Right?
And they
So-
want to integrate into our atmosphere.
So maybe this breeding program has nothing to do with humans, and it has everything to do with them. Because they're coming here and they want to live here on this beautiful planet because their planet is destroyed.
Yeah.
And so maybe this breeding program is about making a species of them that is them, which is why all these these children or these, all the experiencers talk about all this breeding, right? But all these children are not being raised by the humans. They're being raised by the aliens.
Right.
And so it's like imagine if you and if two random people were to breed together, right? And there's a child born, like you put it with the mother or you put it with the father, and they have totally different families and they disagree, right? Whichever family that child grows up with, it's going to be
turn out to be that child
empathetic with that side of the family.
Right.
And so if it's like an alien human hybrid, if it's always being raised by the aliens, it's going to be empathetic to the alien cause.
Right.
And especially if they're doing like advanced genetics that keep it more alien like, or keep whatever aspects of the alien
that they would like to keep.
physiology that they want to keep. but they're breeding with humans because humans are native to Earth. And if they're going to come live on Earth, they need to change their biology to be compatible with Earth's biosphere.
Understandable, yeah.
And so what it makes me think of is that book, The Three Body Problem, where the whole plot of the book is that someone alerts aliens to the existence of planet Earth.
Yeah.
And in doing so, the aliens decide, because in the book, their home world is about to die for whatever reason, and they need a new place to go. And so they decide they're coming to Earth. And in the meantime, on their way to planet Earth, they're doing everything they can to make sure that humans aren't able to repel them.
Yeah, aren't going to be a problem.
Because it's going to take them X amount of years to get there.
And to be established when they do get here.
Right. So in the book, it's going to take them 400 years to get there.
Right.
Right. And they need to keep humans from advancing within 400 years to the point where it overpasses their technology when they left to come.
Oof.
But the thing is, humans advance really quickly.
Yeah. So you'd have to have the ability to like send or receive things.
Send like advanced troops.
Yeah.
Right.
Or droids or
like
something.
Your whole civilization is coming on this like slow freighter, but you send these advanced troops
on the lifeboat
to like start doing breeding, start doing whatever to like lay the groundwork for your people to arrive.
That goes to like Lou Elizondo's idea of like them prepping the battlefield in a sense of like
in a sense, but like what if it's not a battle? What if it's more of a like
could be a silent battle where they
it's
just
a moving,
come in and like,
you know, like it's not a conquest as much as it is like a emergency relocation. And they found our place and it looks good, and in the meantime they want to prep the planet. And they want to prep their own genetics so that they have a whole entire generation of offspring that's ready to live on planet Earth.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, so did the Spanish when they came to...
And they're willing to live with us. Yeah. Well, then they're willing to live with us as long as we can coexist on their level.
Able to, yeah. As long as we're not, like, aggressive, you know?
Right.
And that's where, like, this idea, like if you were to think of, like, the Spaniards landing on, you know, South America back in, you know, the 1500s or whatever, whenever that took place, 1400s. And if the Aztecs or the, you know, whoever was there at the time was just welcoming and open, and guess what still would have happened? The pandemic would have still wiped out a large chunk of the population. What's left are people who are agreeable. Or
imagine if the Spaniards on their way to, like, imagine like Spain was going to be destroyed by a volcano and they knew. And so all of Spain hopped on all these ships to head towards the New World, right? But they sent these advanced forces.
Yep.
Because the people from Spain, maybe they can't live off of the plants and animals in the New World. And so they send people over in advance to breed with the local populations
and to start growing
so that they have some genetic overlap.
Yeah. And it's like,
and so a chunk of their population has already made kids in the New World who are already immune to all the diseases.
And then they can immediately start to breed with them. And then,
right.
That's it.
And then when they arrive, as long as the population, the local population is ready and willing to live with them,
yeah,
they're willing to do that. But if not,
they'll wait them out.
Or they'll let them die off, or maybe they'll even cause them to die off.
Yeah, they'll wait them out in whatever form that means, whether it's waiting a week for them to, you know, succumb or.
So I think that
is an interesting.
It's an interesting scenario for the ET contact, and specifically because if you put it back in context of all the stuff we've talked about, like over time, and you put it in context of the the question is like, why would this remain secret if so many people are open to alien contact? And the how put offs and whatnot saying, well, people really aren't ready to know this stuff, right?
Yeah. Maybe that is true.
If the answer is, well, what if the answer is they're actually on their way here right now? And they have advanced forces coming here right now. They're abducting people. They're breeding with people. They're getting their own genetic line ready to live on the planet Earth.
Yeah.
To have the antibodies to not die off from the diseases.
Right.
They're putting their genetic material and linking it with native Earth genetic material so that
they can survive.
They can survive here.
Yeah.
And they're raising the kids because it's their kids, not our kids.
Yeah.
Right?
And they want them to have their, set of values or whatnot.
And so maybe that's the hybrid program.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not so necessarily
esoteric.
Well, I was going to say more like beneficent, or it's not necessarily this like angelic force. It's more like a survival based
it's just
stratagem that they're employing in order to move and relocate
since we sent
themselves.
out the bat signal of like
And if
Earth
we're not-
being available, now we have these entities.
And if we're not willing to work with them by the time they get here, they're going to wipe us out and then land.
Right. And just take it for themselves.
Yeah.
So interesting. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, I'm excited to read more of this.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good little sneak preview of what this book has. That was just one part of a chapter.
That was one part of one chapter.
Yeah. That's cool.
This book is super intriguing. So yeah, check out John Mack Abductions. And yeah, we'll have to cover more of this. I'm going to keep going through the book and I'm going to highlight the next chapter is really interesting too.
Yeah.
It's a woman who ends up having, abduction experiences within her family too, like her children.
Oh, really?
Which also helps drive her to like really figure out what the hell is going on with her experiences over a lifetime. And in her case, she seems to be one of these people who has been used as a sort of breeding situation, like a breeding specimen over and over and over and over again since she was young.
Really?
Which is terrifying. And it gave her these like phobias and traumas around sex where she couldn't bond with her husband.
Oh, wow. And she attributes it to abductions.
Yeah. And they had this weird like psychological effect where like the reason she has such a hard time like having any sort of like gratifying sexual experience with her husband is because the experiences she has with the abductions are so involuntary. It's basically rape-like, right?
Right.
And she has no control in those situations when she's abducted.
Yeah.
But in the situation with her husband, it triggers those memories, but she does have the ability to say no to her husband. And when she does say no to her husband and he stops and respects her because it's her husband and he loves her, it gives her some sort of subconscious feel that she has control over the situation that she doesn't have control of.
So she's seeking that, and unfortunately it's deteriorating some part of her personal life because she's looking for the thing that's going to make her feel better, but the thing that's going to make her feel better is also making it harder to have this intimate relationship with her husband.
Right.
Yeah,
and
that's interesting.
It's super interesting. And the feeling I get from like going through the whole chapter is that like she has had this happen over and over and over and over again. And it's almost like they come to her, they implant an embryo, and then they come back to her
Take it
and they
out.
take it. And then they come to her and they implant an embryo, and they come back to her and they take it.
Wow.
And so she has these like recurring experiences of losing control, being taken, like just being exposed and
Yeah.
like just nude and open and like totally without control to these alien beings that seem to have very minimal regard for her well-being and her comfort. And that's one of the
more
recurring
terrifying ones.
themes that I find myself throughout all the experiences I've read so far, which is that it's not that they don't care, it's just that they have limited care. Like they have a mission.
Yeah, they have a
And
specific set of
they're
goals
going
they're trying to
like
achieve.
they may go out of their way just a tiny bit to try and make someone comfortable.
Sure.
Like it's very common for someone to be abducted and someone to be like, "Do not fear."
Yeah,
But
what's the guy?
Like, how much are you really trying? If you abduct someone, you tell them, "Don't be scared."
We're just gonna.
You
Do
say,
anything
"Don't be
we want."
scared," but like you're still gonna go ahead and do what you're gonna do.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not like a, don't be scared. We're not gonna do anything.
Right. And it's not
Yeah.
like based on their fear response, you are going to go forward or not. Whether or not like they have that fear response, you're
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
go forward. You're going to tell them not to be scared ahead of time because it may ease the transition. But even if they are scared and even if they tell you to stop, you're not going to because you have a mission to accomplish.
Yeah. What was that guy's name? The lumberjack that got abducted?
Travis Walton.
Travis Walton. Yeah. His story of like it affecting him physically and then them like healing him and like trying to like soothe him, and they were actually trying to help him because they had
Right.
no intention of like abducting him
Right.
beforehand.
His is a little weird because it seems like he kind of like randomly came across the craft
Right.
and the craft hurt
Affected
him.
hurt him, yeah.
And so they were like,
felt
okay,
they
well,
need to repair him, and
It's only just that we make it right, right? So they
Yeah.
abduct him, they heal him, they drop him back off.
Yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
in this case, it's more like we have a mission to accomplish,
This
and
is our-
you are
this
the
is the
tool
mission.
of our mission. So we don't want you to have a bad time. Like we want you to not be scared. We want you to
yeah.
like we're not
But
here.
still
We're not here to
going
terrorize
conduct
you,
our
but we are here
experiments.
to complete our mission.
Yeah.
And so even if you don't want this to happen, it's gonna happen, and we'll just wipe your memory.
Right. At least part of it, partially.
Yeah. Well, to the best of their ability. And that's
Yeah.
the other thing I find weird is that in these experiences, a lot of times it's only through like hypnotic regression that you get like they get the integration of the depth of the memories of the abduction experiences. But a lot of times, like whether or not the person remembers the depth of the experiences, they are still emotionally impacted by the experience, whether or not they can remember what that emotional impact
It's
came
connected
from.
to. Yeah.
Right? Like, so for this woman, the reason she was seeking out the help in the first place, which led to the regression that detailed all this, is because she
the
could not have a
intimacy
normal
problem.
sexual
Yeah,
relationship.
the intimacy problem.
Yeah. And so, in search of solving that
Answers for
problem,
that, yeah.
right?
She discovered that this is what's been going on.
So, I don't know.
That's fascinating.
It's crazy stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, it seems like there's some sort of weird breeding program going on.
Man, imagine that being you.
And if there's a breeding program going on, like, what does that mean? Like, what? Like, back to this, what was the guy? Scott, yeah. Back to Scott's story, like, they're coming here to prepare the land for themselves, right?
Yeah. And there's been all this talks, like, about a spaceship imminently coming in in the next couple of years, and what does it mean, and why is there's this, like, big, like, foundational, like, push to, like, disclosure and stuff. It's like preparing ourselves for, like, the potential for something drastic happening here. Be fascinating to live through, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, right.
You know, for better or worse, I guess, you know. as little or more, as much or as little control we may have over the situation, right?
Totally.
Yeah, that's about it for us today, y'all. Appreciate y'all hanging out and listening to this episode number 74. If you guys are listening on just a standard podcast platform and you guys want to come check out the video podcast, go to YouTube or Rumble. You guys can watch the video content here where we can give you peace signs at the end here. And you guys can follow along with anything we're looking up online or any videos we're playing. So check us out on those. Like, comment, subscribe. It really helps out the algorithm to push us to you and your friends and other people like you. So that'd be very helpful. If you're on your podcast platforms and that's just where you're going to listen to us, please review us, like, subscribe, any of the things you can do to help us get seen a little bit and get our name out there. Anything and everything that we post or link or anything will be hosted on our website, dualitycheck.net. You guys can email us directly if you don't want to comment or subscribe or anything, or DM us on any of these other platforms. You guys can hit us up at host@dualitycheck.net. That's our email. We both can check. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us this week.
And we'll see you next week for episode number 75.
75, y'all. All right. See you later. Peace.
Adios.